Hello, and welcome to Redneck MBA. I am your host, David E. McClendon Sr., and I'm a redneck with an MBA. Today we're going to talk about the Differentiation Vitality Curve, or differentiation. This is a concept that was made popular by Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric, known as GE, and has been our most popular blog post, bar none, on the Redneck MBA. And so I thought we'd kind of revisit that to bring a little more information to you and to discuss it in more detail. Now, Jack first introduced it to us in his book, Jack Welch, or Jack Straight from the Gut. And this is a very interesting read, and we'll talk about it in a book review on another post. And then he expanded on it in Winning by Jack Welch. Anyway, in Winning, he discussed how he wished he had spent more words or book space on the concept of differentiation. The differentiation vitality curve is based sort of on the Pareto principle, where 80% of your results come from 20% of your effort. And we'll have discussed that in another post on Redneck MBA, and we'll discuss it again in a little more detail in a future post. But for now, let's talk about differentiation. A lot of people found a lot of problems with this whole concept of the differentiation vitality curve. And the reason is that Jack felt like that there were A, B, and C players. And most businesses do categorize their employees in some type of fashion into A, B, and C. Now, the A players are your star players. Those are the people, your employees, that perform best. Your salespeople that get the majority of the sales, your executives that are able to get the majority of the contracts signed or get the majority of the accounts, your marketing people that come up with the majority of the ideas, and you get the general idea here. Okay, then there's the B players. Now, that's made up of 70% of your workforce. Now, these B players, they're not good enough to be the A players, but they contribute the majority of the work. They contribute the majority of the effort to the firm. And so these are people that you would like to keep. They're not the stars, but they're not bad performers. And then you have your C players. Now, your C players are the people that are just kind of hanging around. It's the bottom 10%. They're the people that aren't really getting the job done. They're not performing to the best of their potential, or they're performing to the best of their potential, but they're not quite working out for whatever reason. And Jack felt like the top employees, the 20%, the A players, should be rewarded bonuses and other things, pats on the back, that type of thing. That the 70% should be awarded sometime, given encouragement, and encouraged to move up to the 20%, and that the bottom 10% just plain had to go. And a lot of people have labeled this as being sort of a Darwinism, and that, survival of the fittest and that type of thing. And Jack explains this in such a way that it makes sense, where he would come about his concept that the bottom 10% just have to go. And as far as that's concerned, in the very beginning, the very first year, it makes sense. The bottom 10% need to go. The people that aren't cutting the mustard, just plain aren't working out. But Jack is of the mind that, okay, the first year you get rid of the bottom 10%. Okay, after a second year, you again get rid of the bottom 10%. And after the third year, you get rid of the bottom 10%. And he says in Winning that his managers would find that the first year it wasn't all that difficult to find people that weren't performing up to speed. In the second year it was very difficult, but they were able to usually find 10%. By the third year they would tell him that there were no C players left. Jack felt like this couldn't possibly be the case. Now, Jack likes to use a lot of analogies with baseball teams. And one thing he says, that the differentiation, that you have it all the time. Like when kids choose up sides to play baseball, you have those that are chosen first, and those would be your A players. those that are chosen through the second round, and those would be your B players, and then those kids that have to sit and watch, and they're your C players. And he says that this works out fine because those kids that don't get chosen can find other endeavors that they're good at. But if you never get a chance to play, how are you ever going to find out that you're good? Another problem comes in that, okay, you've gotten rid of your 10%, your bottom 10% the first year, then that means that the people that are gone the second year were actually in your B player category for the first year. So that by comparison, these people that are now C players, they were just as good this year as they were last year, but now they've got to go because he's fallen to this arbitrary 10% category. And I would argue that rather than have this cast in stone figure of 10%, that if somebody isn't measuring up to the job, you let them go. But if someone is performing their job at the acceptable level, then you keep them. You don't get rid of them simply because they fall into this category, the bottom 10%. Now let's say you have a football team and you have 10 quarterbacks. Obviously you wouldn't normally have 10 quarterbacks, but you have 10 quarterbacks. And each one of these quarterbacks can throw a great distance. You have one that can throw a pass and be dead on the spot 100 yards. The second one can throw it only 99 yards but still dead on the spot. The third 98, and so forth. Okay, well that one poor guy that can only throw a pass 91 yards and be dead on the spot, he's still great, and any football team would love to have somebody that could 100% of the time complete a 91-yard pass exactly on the spot. But through this differentiation vitality curve, that guy's got to go. And the next year the 92-yarder would go, and so forth. And this just plain doesn't make much sense. Now in the video that follows, you'll see an example of where differentiation has gone very wrong, where in a convenience store you have 10 convenience stores and 10 managers that work together as a cohesive team. If you have team players that work together well, and the only thing that is creating a problem is that you've got this idea that you have to get rid of your bottom 10% of performers, then there's a problem for you. Because your problem here is that you've let some magical theory ruin your cohesive team, and that's not something you want. Now one thing that does work out good, that Jack does point out that's good in his differentiation idea, is the concept of candor. As in, you don't just all of a sudden walk up to a person and say, listen, you're not up to steam, you got to go. Each performance review, the person would leave the performance review knowing, okay, this is where I stand, I'm good in this area, but I need to improve in this area. And that's a very fair kind of thing, because if you go through a series of performance reviews and everybody sings your praises, and then all of a sudden they say, well listen, you just aren't working out here, then you begin to wonder, okay, well what was going on? Why was I very good this year and this year and this year, but now all of a sudden I'm out the door? So Jack believes very much in that the managers should tell their people, okay, this is where you stand. You're very good at this, you're not so good at this, you need to improve this. And then when a person doesn't quite fit in, doesn't quite work out in a particular area, to try to find them another place within the company, and if that doesn't work out, to try to help them locate a position where they do fit and where they can perform at their fullest. Now that makes sense, and it's a very good idea. The concept though fails when you're eliminating these people, not because they're not performing up at an acceptable level, but because they don't meet the criteria of falling in that upper 20 or that middle 70%. And that's just not the way to run a company. If you've got a good team, leave the team in place. If you don't have a good team, of course you need to cut those that are not being team players. I'd like to know your opinion on this. Please send me a video, please send me an email to Gindy's Videos, GINDYS VIDEOS @gmail.com. Um, please keep it on topic. Please keep it civil. And let me know what you think about this differentiation vitality curve. Check out the books. I picked these books up at the Wharton County Library. You can pick them up at your library or buy them from Amazon. The links will be in this blog post that follows. It's down there up under this video. Thank you. Welcome to Redneck MBA with your host, David E. McClendon Sr. And here's my little buddy, Redneck. Today we're going to talk about the differentiation vitality curve. A few years back, I created a post about the differentiation vitality curve, a concept made popular by Jack Welch. Without a question, this particular post was the most popular post across any of my blogs. This is an effort to improve that post. The former CEO of GE has this great idea called the differentiation vitality curve. A company is made up of the top 20% who are A players. Then there is a middle 70% which are the B players. Finally, the bottom 10% is made up of the C players, and they have to go. In his book, Jack Straight from the Gut, Jack Welch admits that the first year is not very difficult to find the bottom 10% and get rid of them. The second year is harder. By the third year, managers tell him that they have no C players on their staffs. Jack does not seem to believe this is true. The problem with all of this is that once you remove the bottom 10%, some of your B players are now C players by comparison. Therefore, no matter what you do, you will always have some people that rank at the bottom. On a professional football team, everyone is supposedly very good at what they do. However, on any given team, you will find some people who, compared to the others, would not be as good. There are still great players, and any team would do well to have them on their team. Still, they would be the bottom 10%. An example of differentiation gone wrong might be the following. A company has 10 stores. Each of those stores has a manager, 3 assistant managers, and 10 line level employees. All stores are in the same geographic area in the same city. Each store has about the same level of sales per square foot. All stores are laid out the same way as set by corporate. The managers have all been with the company for over 10 years. These managers are friendly with one another and often discuss innovations they have made in their stores. Sometimes one store will swap merchandise with another store so that items that move slowly in one store can be sold in a store that has a higher volume in the store for that item. This keeps merchandise fresh and improves inventory turns in both stores. Sometimes when a store has a temporary staffing problem, one store will send another store some of their employees. This keeps service levels at their peak. Customers benefit from this. One day the CEO reads the book Jack Straight from the Gut. Then he reads Winning. The CEO decides that Welch must know what he is doing. He looks at his sales figures. He determines that all stores are operating above the standard for the industry and sales in all stores are improving in a stagnant economy. Still, he thinks Welch must be right. The CEO introduces the concept of the Differentiation Vitality Curve to his employees. He tells managers that they must get rid of the bottom 10% of their employees. He further tells his managers that by this time next year, one of them will have to go. The managers take a hard look at their employees. The team works well together. They swap shifts with one another and they work together to serve their customers. Sometimes, when a floor needs to be mopped due to a customer spill, an employee will grab a mop even if it's not their job to do so. Everyone works for the good of the team. Each manager tells his team that by this time next year, one of the line level employees will be gone, and he's not sure what he will have to do about the assistant managers. In each store it becomes dog eat dog. No one is swapping shifts. Everyone is doing only his job. There's no longer a team. Managers stop sharing information with one another. It becomes a contest between stores. Employees are not being swapped when there are staffing problems. Inventory sits at one store while there is an outage at another. Managers keep innovations to themselves so other managers in the chain cannot beat them. It is a fight to the death. Sales at all stores begin to decline. The bottom person on the totem pole has been removed from each store. Some assistant managers have left the company for fear of losing their jobs. Those that left were the better ones, and now they all work for a competitor. One manager is fired and a new guy is hired. This new guy is told he will get 1 year to get up to speed. In his second year, he will have to compete in this differentiation vitality curve. The CEO asks the other managers to train the new guy. Each does a half-hearted effort because he knows that next year he will be in competition with the new guy. The company is no longer a great place to shop. Some stores have old merchandise in one category and outages in others. Customers have to wait in line because each store has one fewer well-trained line-level employee, and in their place is a trainee. Customer service has slipped. This all took place because an arbitrary number of 10% was set. Would it be better if we forgot all about ranking people by A, B, and C? Instead, if an employee is not pulling his weight, they have to go. If it means firing all C-level people, so be it. If it means firing everyone and starting over, then do it. But if it means that everyone is pulling their own weight, then they should not have to be concerned that they will be fired just because they are not at the top of the heap. In my opinion, this erodes team spirit since everyone is trying to step on one another to keep from being in that bottom 10%. What is your opinion of this ranking system? Does Jack have a good idea? This is a Federal Trade Commission required notice. When you click on an advertisement that is displayed with this video, or just before it, we receive a small commission. Sometimes, if you merely watch an ad, we receive commission. If you purchase anything by clicking on links on any of our websites, we receive a commission as well. These great redneck coffee mugs are available at www.cafepress.com/redneck4president. We receive a commission off of them as well. You can also purchase buttons, yard signs, etc. from that website.